Mr. Van Hise, you have a quorum.
Okay. The Open Public Meetings Act authorizes the Board of Education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances. We will be meeting this evening to talk about matters of personal confidentiality rights, including but not limited to staff and students, student discipline matters, and specifically HIB. We will also be discussing matters concerning negotiations with the LTPS negotiations. No formal action will be taken in executive session. We can move, somebody move us to executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
Motion by Ms. Scott, seconded by who, please?
Pepper.
Ms. Evans, thank you. You ready for the roll?
Ready for the roll call, sorry.
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Dauber?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
And Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Motion carried. We are now in executive session.
All right, and it should be for about 20 minutes? Okay, thank you.
We're going to go to the vocal music rooms.
We were in our executive session, and welcome to our board meeting. Okay. I'll just start out. The announcement of the notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. As required under the law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided via email and/or fax to the Times, the Lawrence Ledger, the Public Library, and has been filed with the municipal clerk. This notice was provided prior to the 48 hours required by the Open Public Meetings Act. The board reserves the right to limit public discussion of personnel items and other matters as defined in the law. And we'll have the flag salute. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any student representatives?
We don't today.
Okay. Any recognitions and acknowledgements?
None.
None. Okay. So we'll do the adoptions of the minutes from our last meeting. Can somebody please make a motion to adopt the executive and regular session minutes from the April 21st, 2021 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion
Tom?
made by Ms. Scott, seconded by Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Ms. Evans, excuse me, Ms. Bose, rather.
Abstain.
Thank you. Dr. Dauber.
Abstain.
Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Mrs. Grover.
Yes.
Ms. Farmer.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. King.
She
Stepped out, okay.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Good evening. Yesterday, we had another successful vaccination clinic at our high school, and we gave the second dose of the vaccination to 140 folks, many of our staff and some of the staff from the surrounding districts.
Awesome.
Again, I want to give our thanks to our nurses for running the clinic, our security for helping out and moving people around, the high school administration, Andrew, Tom, and Linda to really make the event go off and be able to help out so many of our community members and teammates on our school and other schools. I also want to thank the superintendent, Mike Nitty of Ewing. He sent over a few nurses and also security to help. And I would like to thank all the county superintendents in Mercer for collaborating together, because this was not our only event, but we had other ones to give opportunities to have all staff vaccinated. I also want to thank the leadership in the Lawrence Township Education Association, Braulio and Michelle, for their support and help with vaccinations. A few weeks ago now, May 22nd, we had a very productive equity meeting. We had about 80 parents attend a Zoom meeting, which was led by our consultants. We shared our efforts this year with our efforts in the area of equity, diversity, anti-racism, and inclusion. Val and Rebecca led an activity on belonging. It was a similar activity that our whole staff experienced earlier in the year. And we also gained some very valuable feedback from parents about differences they saw this year, what was working well, and how we can improve in the future. We're planning a follow-up meeting with these families and these parents on June 8th, and hopefully other events in person, hopefully for the fall, that will be open to all. With our professional development and focus on equity and inclusion and our plan moving forward, we are really positioned for tremendous growth and success when it comes to our work with equity, diversity, and inclusion when we return to a full day of school in the fall. I also continue to meet with our BIAC and the Lawrence Black Lives Matters group, and since our last board meeting, we had another positive meeting with each group in the last week. We are continuing our plans for high school graduation and prom. They continue to evolve over time as social distancing guidelines continue to change. Just really a month ago, it seemed that all families were only going to get 2 tickets. Last week, we were able to up that to 6, and if things keep progressing the way they are, it looks like we will be able to give everybody a ticket that wants to attend a ticket for graduation. So that's great news for all. And I think this is just another example of our entire administrative team working hard to making every situation, from pickup to drop off, from prom to graduation to moving up ceremonies, to preparing our kids to transition to a new building next year, to make it the best possible it can be for our students and our families under really stressful, challenging times that continue to change. I'm really excited about a webinar that we're going to host on May 20th. We advertised it yesterday. We already have 60 parents signed up, and it's how to support students' mental health and wellness. It's on May 20th between 7 and 8:30. The initiative is led by the Board Community Relations Committee, and also I want to thank Linda Mithog and Melanie Philmeyer for really working to make a really, I think, great night. The purpose of the event is to answer questions and get feedback from parents to help us with our reentry plan for 2021, and to help us support, which is so important right now, the mental health, the wellness, and well-being of our families, our kids as they return to school. We're really excited for the keynote speakers that we have. We have Kimmy Carlos and George Scott slated to be our keynotes, who are really the foremost authorities in that area. So if you have not signed up, please sign up. It's going to be a great event. We're also, and they'll see them in our budget presentation tonight, we're setting up programs to support our students as they return to school in multiple creative and additional ways that we haven't done in the past. We are setting up RFP out to offer individual counseling for our students in grades 7 through 12. The program will start this summer for our students and continue through the summer of 2022, providing individual counseling to students that are struggling with social and emotional issues. We are also working to send out a proposal for social, emotional-based research skill coaching for all of our elementary schools in LIS. This will happen during recess and give our kids, through a coach, the skills and the opportunities to play games and build their SEL skills, but also to train our staff so it is sustainable for years to come. This one also goes to June 2022. And many of you saw on our last agenda an RFP that focuses on supplemental instruction with academic support, and it was awarded and will begin this summer. We're in the process of setting up the meetings with the company that was awarded the bid, and we will be working with eligible students K to 3, and this initiative also goes through June 2022. We have lots planned for the summer. We are designing an LHS summer program for remediation and acceleration. We're continuing our summer destinations and summer Eagles program. And newly, that we are still in the planning stages of, but it will happen, we are going to give a summer jumpstart program for students in K and 1 and grade 4. It's going to be offered at all of our elementary schools and LIS, and it's really designed to get students acclimated to the school and reinforce some of the skills and essential concepts in language arts and mathematics. Most of you know it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and National Principals Day was on Saturday, May 1st. I want to share my thanks and my appreciation to our entire staff, our teachers, our administrators. They have tackled a very challenging year and made it the very best it could be. During, I would say, the most challenging year ever in schools, our entire staff put our students first, and they did the best we could to support and connect and teach every single one of our students, whether they were remote or hybrid. I have so much gratitude and appreciation to be part of this district. There are countless stories of teachers, guidance counselors, business administrators, and others, from drivers to aides, to food service that went above and beyond, that were so flexible. They personalized the approach and gave help to our students, our families, and each other. I know how hard this year has been on everyone, and I ask you, please, if you have a concern or a question or need help, please reach out to your child's teacher, connect with a guidance counselor, or reach out to your building administrator. We are blessed to have an amazing, talented, caring team, and they will do whatever it takes to help you and help your family, and to help all of our students. After our last board meeting, I received several emails, letters, and calls, parents who were in support of our current plan, parents who do not want us to serve lunch in school and expect us to follow social distancing guidelines. These communications were very similar to the feedback we got in the survey from 1,247 parents saying in their hybrid program, they were 85% of them had positive experiences. And when you look at their individual comments, there was lots of thanks, praise, appreciation for our plans, for our process, and our acute sense to focus on the health, safety, and well-being of all of our families, all of our students, and our staff. The survey had an overall theme of get kids in school more. I think we all agree that's important. I know it's something we all want. And we listened since then. Since then, we increased to have all students who want in school 5 days a week for in-person instruction. The fact is, the majority of school districts in the state of New Jersey are not offering lunch. And in Mercer County, there are more districts than not that have an early dismissal. East Windsor, West Windsor, Plainsboro, and Princeton are all staying for the full year with an early dismissal and not serving lunch at school. Some of the districts that are serving lunch still have multiple cohorts. Their students are not in 5 days a week. And others, one in particular, is not following social distancing guidelines, something we said we would not do. As I've said, those decisions are not a right or wrong. They're not better or worse than ours. Each district is unique, and they're doing the best that they can for their district and their community. Serving lunch here in Lawrence causes a host of issues and challenges with space, social distancing, wearing masks, cleaning, and supervision. As I said at the last board meeting, to do so now in our district would cause a major scheduling change to almost all of our students, particularly those who are on remote instruction. And for many students, it would require right now a change in teacher. Since the last board meeting, only one parent in the entire district called me and asked why we were not moving to a full day. When I shared the facts with that parent, she replied, "Well, of course I don't want my kid to have a new teacher. And I don't want people's schedules changed again. It doesn't make sense right now. I understand." I am really proud of our leadership team and our Board of Education. We did and continue to do the very best to support all of our students, our staff, and our families. We listened, we learned, and we improved. And I am so confident that our district will be better as we move forward and look towards a bright future. We, meaning our staff, our administrators, and our board, have always done what is best for all of our students, and that is not any different right now. It takes strong leadership to stay true what is right, especially in the face of adversity. Our decision to remain 5 days a week of in-person with early dismissal is the right decision for Lawrence and it is what is best for our school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. And I just want to say, I'm covering for Kevin tonight, who's out, and I was not here at our last board meeting. But I would just like to let the community know that this entire board continues to meet and discuss the needs of our district all the time. We are devoted to figure out and do the best that we can for our community. And we're going to have the board secretary's report, sorry.
Sure, thank
So I would like to introduce the budget. So tonight is our budget presentation and hearing, and it's really a pleasure to present that to you. It is one of the most important and challenging things that the administrative team and the Board of Education has to do. Make no mistake, fiscal responsibility creates educational excellence. And it's a balancing act, and it is more difficult every year because there is a 2% cap. And as you all know from your own homes, costs seem to go up every single year. Budgeting, especially in this district, truly begins tomorrow after we vote on this budget. And I want to thank Tom and his team and our administrators and the Board of Education, because it's so hard. There's so many competing things for our dollars. But if you continue to focus on what's best for all of our students and stay true to your goals, and you'll see them in our budget, of academic excellence, equity, special education, and more than ever now, social, emotional learning, and mental health of our students are all things that we made sure we stayed true to in our budget. So with that, thank you, and it's a pleasure to turn it over to you.
I'm going to approach the podium because it's easier for me to see the screen as we present, okay?
Please do.
All right.
Thank you.
We like seeing this side of you better. I like seeing this side of you better.
Okay, so the budget that we're looking at this evening is essentially the same budget that we did in March. We submitted our preliminary budget to the Mercer County Department of Education for approval. On the agenda this evening are budget motions for your consideration. Those numbers are exactly the same as they were when we presented the draft budget to you. So nothing has changed there. The presentation this evening has been changed so that it answers the questions that you sought answers to in the previous hearing or the draft budget presentation. So we'll begin. The first is probably my favorite picture of all of our kids, and that's what you see there. And then we'll move right in. I've got it right here, Michelle.
Sorry.
No, you're quite all right because we have a mind meld. You're doing fine. So we're going to move through the budget highlights first and rearrange some things. Our revenue highlights, we received $630,000 more in state aid, specifically in the category of special education aid. Perhaps the next most significant, if not the most significant item, is our tax levy. Combined, our general operating account, which is one budget by itself, with the debt service budget, which is a separate budget, have a total tax levy of an increase of 1.21% overall. That's a combination of two things, an increase in the general operating account of 1.69 and a decrease in the general fund, or excuse me, the debt service tax levy of 8.24%. The board may recall that earlier this year we refinanced debt, and so we're realizing some savings there. We're realizing that savings were at a time when we already had a declining debt service schedule. And we were quite aware of that, and we planned our last referendum around this diminishing debt service schedule. And so we're starting to realize that. You may recall that when we had the last referendum, we said that we would have, that we'll see a decrease in debt service. And so we're realizing that now. Perhaps another thing that is mentionable is that we're currently under our cap. Ross talked about the fact that we have a 2% tax levy cap on our budget. We are not at cap. This is one of the first years we have not gone to cap. Typically, we go to cap, and we take any cap exceptions eligible to us. And the rationale for that is, while cap is 2%, which means this is not a cap on our budget, this is a cap on our tax levy, which supports the majority of our budget. but our appropriations typically grow in excess of that. Our settlements are at average of 3%, and typically our health benefits increase anywhere between 8 and 15%. However, in the budget year we have now, we have an actual decrease of 5% in our budgets. So what we see is, for the first time in a long time, we are under tapped by $192,000. And the overall impact to the average home is $68 per year. So this is a budget that is underwritten by some refinancing. It's underwritten by favorable renewals for health benefits and planning on behalf of the board. The appropriations highlights. Some things that I like to call out is that our program increases do reflect our enrollment and program changes. So in the regular education budget is increasing by $626,000. The special education is increasing by $739,000. This is a trend that we've seen over the last few years as we see that our population is shrinking, but our special needs population is remaining steady. And that's just something to point out. We're not experiencing any more students in terms of enrollments necessarily in special education, but the costs are increasing. And so I know that we have a special education subcommittee that's looked into things like that in the past, whether it's out-of-district tuition or just transportation costs. Health benefits, it's the first time in a very long time where we've seen a decrease in our health benefits, specifically in medical. We had a decrease of 5%, and prescription, our second largest cost in that category, is flat. Where we do see some changes is in our transportation budget. At this time last year, we were expecting to renew all of our transportation routes with our primary contract holder. Sometime in the middle of the summer last year, that contract holder informed us that they were not going to renew our routes after they had told us they would. So those routes went all out to bid, all of our routes went out to bid, and they came back in substantially higher. We anticipated that this would happen, and we changed our transportation policies as a result of some of that information. Fortunately, the increase you see here of $366,000, that's with the economizing in terms of transportation policy. And I understand that there are people who have concerns about this changes that the board made. I believe it was last year at about this time, maybe in the summer. And we'll try to work through those as well. We have a large construction item in our budget this year. That construction item is primarily paid for through our reserve accounts. It's not part of our tax levy. And so we'll talk about what those construction items are. And then finally, something that holds true across the years is about 80% of our budget is allocated towards salaries and benefits. And we'll get to that in an overview in just a minute. Those were the costs. This is what the cost delivers. The cost delivers our investment in equity. Before we had the pandemic, before it began, we were on track evaluating all of the variables within the concept of equity in education. And so this budget addresses that with personnel dedicated to the concept of equity and all of the variables therein. We remain invested in counseling. You may recall that we have counselors over at the middle school and high school that were outsourced, and they are targeting, as it were, students with concerns that we weren't able to handle with our own guidance counselors. And so with the leadership of Linda Mithog, we focused on providing counseling through SAGE, and so that remains in this budget. We continue to focus on special education in a variety of ways, whether it's in this particular instance, we're looking at preschool. It may be that the programs look as they do in the current school year. However, it may be funded differently in the coming school year through the state of New Jersey, and I think it's going to be beneficial to the district. And the idea there is there's a new program that may bring more revenue to us, funded by the state. It will also relieve parents of tuition payments, and we may be able to also retain our means-based enrollment criteria for a portion of the enrollment in preschool. So we will focus continuously on maintaining the one-to-one initiative and leveraging our technology for new opportunities. We understand, as unpopular as the pandemic is that some of the technology, a lot of the technology that we focused on and provided for our students is going to remain into the future. And so we're looking for ways to take that technology, which now is a supplement for instruction, and find creative ways to keep it as a complement to instruction. So, of course, we're going to focus on our schools and in our environment where we cultivate options, and we'll address some of those with outdoor learning spaces. That was mentioned at the last board meeting. Some persons had advocated for tents. Our idea is that we would rather take those funds and not do a temporary solution and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars there, but instead have a permanent solution that we can use, of course, during the time of COVID, but also into the future. So it pays forward for not just the kids that are here, but perhaps their SIBs that follow as well. So the referendum projects are nearly done, and we will begin new projects, such as repaving, re-roofing, and things of that nature. Finally, this question came up, which was the response to COVID and additional federal funding. And Ross talked about this in his description of what we're doing. So the federal funds right now are channeled towards these things right here. Supplemental reading and math instruction right on through, not just the 2021 summer, but straight on through 2022. So this contract has already been awarded, but its horizon is long. We'd like to know, and we're going to find out with this supplemental instruction, the impact we're able to have as we provide this over the summer of 2021 and through the summer of 2022. And so again, the question came up, how are you using the federal relief funds? Mental health counseling, we are out to bid for this right now. The notices were in the newspapers, and we have many takers in terms of our specifications. The same thing with social emotional learning. I believe that we had a resident stand up to Ms. Kessler, I think it was, last meeting, and stress the importance of this. And I'd be happy if she'd look at what we're doing here, take the specifications, and if she'd like to give us feedback on them, that would be great. As we've said before, whatever you can add to make it more effective for us, all the better. We're also focusing, again, like I said, on technology. We're out to bid right now for more Chromebooks, but these are for the earlier grades to keep that momentum going. And then finally, the outdoor learning spaces. Our idea here is that in various places throughout the district, adjacent to perhaps the middle school where you walk in from the side door by the library, we could build an outdoor space there and have a permanent roof structure over it, perhaps a concrete slab foundation, and then we would not have, in the end of a year, we would still have that as an outdoor learning space and as a better alternative, I believe, to tents. So the pragmatic question is, if you're not going to use tents, then what would you do for swing space, as it were, for lunches? And so, of course, we've looked at our lunches capacity because this segues into that question. And we do know how many students that we can bring into the typical cafeterias right now, and we're looking at creative ways to change that so that we maximize all of the resources but still provide the program. So what might that look like, since we did talk about lunch? So it might look like at the middle school where we use the gymnasium for a cafeteria, and instead we use the cafeteria as the gymnasium. Or it may be that we look at PE from a different perspective and we need both of those spaces. It may be that we need the stage here for a cafeteria space. It may be the same thing at Eldridge Park or LES. And so all of those things are being explored, and we do have the counts in terms of how many we can provide lunch for. So moving on to the next. This just illustrates again, once more, that salaries and benefits make up 80% of our budget. This is the largest portion here. And when I say benefits, I don't mean just health benefits, but I mean Social Security, pension costs, and things of that nature as well. Indeed, our human resources are our greatest asset because they deliver instruction. And Ross stresses this on a regular basis, and this slide, which we've used for many years, emphasizes that as well. We're not seeing many changes here. We're seeing that the rest of the pies are essentially where they typically were in prior years. Perhaps the only difference, if we showed it here, would be construction, and that's typically funded through our reserves. Again, changes between years. It's a very difficult budget to compare between years because 2021 is not a typical year, this year, for example. So whereas you see transportation here increasing at $797,000, and a moment ago I told you it was $366,000, it's because this is the adjusted budget. In the current school year, we transferred funds out of these transportation contracts into technology so that we can buy things such as the neat bars and one-to-one devices. And so in the current year, this is actually artificially low because there were funds here that were transferred out to purchase other items. So it's not inconsistent, it's just requires an explanation. And you'll see that further on. Program shifting between years. Now this is kind of hard to read, I apologize, but this is where we talked earlier about the changes between regular education, special education here, and what you see on the screen in the form of the column charts is the 2021 school year being the light blue and the 21-22 school year being the dark blue. This is essentially what we've seen in the past couple of years. The one thing I think that's different is this right here. We hardly ever see health benefits stay even. This is a big plus to us. If this hadn't happened, we would be having a discussion on what we're going to decrease in our budget. And we'd be talking to the tune of probably somewhere around $400,000. So that savings coupled with state aid was something that really saved us in terms of our budget. The question comes up on a regular basis. In the most common terms, the question is this: how do we save money? Well, how we save money is these things. This is the common question. How I look at it is this: our financial sustainability. And what are the little levers that we can pull to restrain tax increases and make sure that the resources go to classrooms? Here are some of the things we do. I'm going to lead off with this first one, and I stress balanced outsourcing and insourcing. What this means is we strategically position ourselves for high-cost items like transportation, which is in excess of $3 million, such that we can run our own routes. We have our own drivers and our own buses, but we also contract out, as you would expect us to do. It's prudent. The same thing with custodial services. We have our own staff, but about half of our buildings are cleaned with an outsourced company. What this allows us to do is to make sure that if it ever goes out of balance where our costs get too great or their costs get too great, we can compensate with one or the other. And this is by design, as is the transportation. Food service, we're completely outsourced. And the idea here is that we don't have the expertise to make this happen. And so we outsource because that's one of the governing factors of when you would outsource. Do you have the expertise or do you bring it in? OT, PT, speech, nursing for private schools. On the agenda, the last agenda, you saw us award contracts, substantial contracts. A reminder to the board that we also provide services to the local schools around us, whether it's St. Anne's, Notre Dame, Chapin. I think the only school that rejects the funds from the state perhaps is the Lawrenceville School. But there must be upwards of 20 different private schools. Andrew is very busy, as is Linda, making sure that they get the services. And of course, our facilities and technology repairs. And that talks to the issue of how productive our staff is. We have a fantastic maintenance staff and a fantastic technology staff. And so we make the same decisions in terms of what we do here as we do all through. And again, it's balanced. And we have a great staff. Some things that we don't talk about anymore because I think it's taken for granted is that we produce about 25% of our own power. So we're no longer drawing 100% from PSE&G. We create our own electricity and bring it back into ourselves. Not only do we reduce our utility costs, but on a regular year, we see about $300,000 in revenue from the sale of solar renewable energy certificates. So that when the cap pushes down on us at 2%, we have a hard time retaining, in terms of maintaining our costs under that cap. We always have another revenue stream to go to. The fuller picture, however, is we also have a mortgage on this. And so when we look at this, we expect our the net present value on this was positive, and I can bring that to anybody who's interested. We also, unlike other places, whether it's industry or other school districts, we have our own private fiber. And what this means is that we have underground fiber that runs between our buildings so that we dispense with T1 lines from Verizon or Comcast or things that folks would do at home or other businesses. The board did fiber right after it did solar. The ideas behind this were when times are difficult, that we would have something that we wouldn't be relying on outside sources to provide in terms of those entities that would charge us too much and provide too little. And so we're able to have communications to our buildings through our own fiber optics, whether it's phone service or providing data directly from our various locations to our satellite locations. Something that comes up on a regular basis is refinancing debt. We have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in our refinancing. And these are things that are practical, and you're doing them at home, I hope, as well, because interest rates are great. But also, the question comes up on a regular basis. A report is published that talks about the next item, cooperative pricing or shared services. The concept behind shared services is not necessarily economies of scale, meaning you're going to get a better cost because you have so many people buying. At some point, the cost of paper doesn't go down anymore once you get 2 truckloads. That's it. That's the cost. What really makes a difference for the people who would want to really focus on this is removing the duplication of effort in terms of if we don't have to bid when we don't have to do those things, then we can pay more attention to other things. And so the real savings for cooperative pricing is as these entities that we belong to, which are upwards of 10 different consortiums from the ESC of New Jersey, Hunterdon County, Morris County, Passaic County, Mercer County, Somerset County, Camden, Sourcewell National, the school boards, or just a New Jersey state contract, almost anything that you can touch in this room or feel in terms of air conditioning or heat is purchased through some cooperative pricing unit. The idea here is, while those units are purchasing those for us competitively, we're focusing on student needs. So the real savings is we get to deliver direct services and not go out to bid for these things. And indeed, there is some economy of scale as well. Transportation routes. You see that transportation is going up. This is something that other districts are experiencing as well. We have contracts with our neighboring school districts. Typically, someone will say, why don't you transport to the XYC school with another school district? We do. Of course we do. We have shared services agreements with our neighboring school districts. We do call them when we have to go to schools at the lower end of Camden County and say, hey, are you going there too? We want to partner with you. Sometimes I believe that people think that we don't do these things. We do these on a regular basis, and this board, you approve them on this agenda or these agendas. Some other things are grants, rebates, incentives. We go after them all aggressively. And then finally, our strategic use of reserves, whether it's capital reserve or maintenance reserve. This board, without impacting tax levy or causing a spike or incurring additional debt, has financed projects ranging from telephone system replacements to roof replacements without having to go out and incur those additional costs. And the way you've done it is through the use of reserves. And so these are just some of the things that we do. And if you have suggestions on how we can do anything else or do those things better to achieve the efficiencies we talk about here and save money, we're always happy to hear it. And that's, of course, for the board and anyone in the public. So before questions, at the tail end of this presentation, you'll find detailed appropriations that look something like this, comparing multiple years. These are all on our website. You can get those. It also shows you the detail of revenue and how we calculate tax rate if you're interested. And that has been posted since March. It's up there again with this presentation as well. So thank you. I appreciate it. I know this is really dull stuff, but this is part of what we do.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you. That was great.
Okay.
The board president's report. We don't really have a board president today, but I would just like to express the appreciation for all of the teachers in our district and recognize how hard everybody is working during this very difficult time. I know a lot of people are feeling challenged right now. Our parents are challenged, our families are challenged, and our teachers and our administrators are challenged as well. I just think we are doing a really good job, and I appreciate the teachers in this district. And I just hope we all show each other a little bit of kindness because everybody is struggling right now. And we can go into our committee reports. Community Relations and Legislative Affairs.
Community Relations has not met since our last meeting on April 21st. I would like to, again, state that we are looking forward to our May 20th presentation that grew out of board goals established in February, one of them being increasing our contact and engagement with the community. So as Community Relations and Legislative Affairs Committee has established that they will hold 2 open meetings, each with a topic. This topic is preparing for fall 2021. And Linda Mithog has done a fabulous job in ensuring the quality of that presentation that's to come. So please do look for it on the website, and please do register, and we look forward to that.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Negotiations, nothing to report for negotiations right now. And Ross already gave an update on equity and guidance and mental health. We have a lot going on in the district and a lot more to come, so keep your eyes open for that. Liaison reports. New Jersey School Board Association.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a legislative meeting this Saturday from 9 to 12 via WebEx, so I don't have to go into Trenton, which is awesome. We will have some 2 ladies from Department of Education, Dr. Lisa Gleason, Division of Academics Performance, and Diana Purcelli, Deputy Assistant Commissioner, and they're going to be giving us updates, along with the Director, Jonathan Pushman, the Government Relations, Christopher Jones, Legislative Advocate, School Funding, State Budget, Federal Issues, John Burns, who happens to be a parent in our district. He is a counsel for New Jersey school boards. He's going to talk about regionalization, accountability for special education updates also. And tomorrow, actually, at 10:30, I have been asked to introduce the Mercer County's 8th grade day of dialogue. So we're going to discuss why it's important for school board members to listen to our students. And I have a quick moment to share about maybe 3 years ago. We usually host them in the Commons for Mercer County. And we had a student come up and discuss how they felt that posters in the school really weren't reflecting on how they felt. And the building principal at the middle school happened to hear what the student was saying. And the next day I had a student teacher at this middle school, and the building principal recognized me and said, "Can you come in here?" Because of that 8th grade day of dialogue, the communication between this building principal and the 8th grade students was opened, and that flow of interest of the students grabbing a hold of what's going on in their building, it was really impactful. So I really, it's going to be on a YouTube channel for New Jersey School Board. If you have an opportunity, Mindy has selected an 8th grade student to represent our district too. So please look forward to checking in with that. Let's see. Normally we have a day where the students, or excuse me, board members get to talk to people on the Hill, we call it. Well, because it's going to be virtual this year, we're going to meet with Senate and House members, and it's going to be a virtual experience. You can sign up for that to get input, question asking. It's a pretty impactful day. You get to see legislation and ask questions from our perspective instead of listening to them tell us. Then on May 12th and 13th, from 9 to 2:50, there is, and I think I talked to you about this before, the workshop, the symposium with New Jersey school boards. There will be, topics will be cyber school security, learning loss mitigation, educational practices, virtual learning, school finance, facilities, special education. Each session is only 50 minutes long. So if you're interested, again, I have the brochure about what is going to be offered. County leadership, we did meet, and the topic for this meeting was very timely, reopening schools. The concerns that this is the entire state of New Jersey. All school board members usually have one representative per each district, and I happen to be that person. Their concerns were lunches, which we spoke about today, medical exemptions, length of time that students have to wear masks for the day, vaccinations for students now, high school level, so that they're ready for September. Summer school, to be sure that SEL was the prime focus to set students up for success in September, to make sure we have a welcoming atmosphere for returning students first, then move into academics, including PTOs and returning in the plans for over the summertime, to provide videos, orientation for schools to be open, because some of these students have not been in the buildings, that they're going to start out in September. And to encourage the Department of Education to support SEL and diversity and not just focus on academics first, to let the kids get their feet up underneath of them. And to have permission to not focus on testing right away and test scores, again, to allow for mindful moments for educators and the students. And the one point that I thought was really interesting that a lot of board members said, when we do the mindful training moments, to include security guards, nurses, coaches. This is going to be stressful for everyone, not just the students. And I'll go back to LTF when we get to that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
We're up to it now, so you
Oh.
can just go into it.
Sorry, I'm taking over again. LTEF, on May 22nd, and you may have already seen this flyer, we tried to put it out for everyone to see, and if anyone's interested, I'll leave it up here for you to take a peek at. From 10 to 4 at the high school parking lot, the whole area where the buses are and that area, we're going to have an amazing event. So please stop by that day. It's called Spring for the Arts event, and LTEF has put a lot of effort into this, and I love the fact that it's going to be about kids, our community. So just to give you a few ideas about what you might experience, there are going to be food trucks, both healthy and pure fun food too. They'll have a smokehouse barbecue, playa bowls, Mr. Softy, and Brizettas. So you please pop out to see that. It's really going to be something great for the kids and for, let me just pop over, for LTEF to get themselves going. There'll be vendors. And take a look on Instagram and Facebook. You'll see some pictures of some of the crafters and artists. Should be fun. Art sales, students and professional artists. There'll be crafts available too. Auctions, raffles, they have like 60+ items that are available, so somebody should find something that they like. And the best, I think, is student performances. So please pop by on that Saturday and have some fun. All right. I think that's it for LTEF.
Great, thanks,
You
Joanne.
bet.
Lawrence Town Council,
No report this week, Michelle.
okay. Growth and redevelopment,
Yes, the Lawrence Township Growth and Redevelopment Committee will be meeting on May the 11th. The meetings are held via Zoom platform, and I was asked to say a few words about the schools, and I promptly reached out to the superintendent's office for some assistance, and my understanding is the committee wants to hear from a building principal about how the schools are coping with the COVID-19 and the changes in instruction and how parents and students are getting along. Should be a very interesting presentation, and I believe Dr. Kaysen is going to ask the building principal to participate, and we look forward to that. If you're interested, you can go to the Lawrence Township website, I think you'll see the Growth and Redevelopment Committee. There should be some type of link or access to see the meeting on TV. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'll be sure to get somebody there.
Okay, thank you.
Direct link?
We will be meeting in the future, but I forgot one thing, if I could insert,
Yep.
please, project graduation in that slot.
Yes.
We have lawn signs, we just, with the pouring rain, we didn't take them out of the car. Sorry, but you can, I know you can go to the website and see what they look like. Lawn signs were delivered to seniors' homes, I'm sure you've seen them all over the town. It's so exciting to see all of these homes with amazing seniors that are gonna step out into the world. So if you haven't seen that, please drive around and you'll get to see them. An update senior breakfast is set for June 10th with the DUI crash car. You probably have seen that out front of the high school. It's a little scary. But the Lawrence Township Police, thank goodness, they popped that out, and the kids get an education about alcohol, drugs, driving, and setting them up for prom so that they can make better decisions. Planning is underway for an outdoor celebration party for graduation night. It's going to be at the high school football field, 7:45 to 10:45-ish, if we can get permits and everything is going. Parents, if you're interested, even if you don't have a senior, it's so awesome to see these kids. And it actually is kind of better if you don't have a senior, because then your child isn't embarrassed by having you there. So think about volunteering for that. And just a quick side note, the tuxedo rental, and they also have, I think it's like I want to say $5 off for prom gowns. They have 2 businesses that have stepped up to help Lawrence graduates for prom. So take a peek at Project Graduation. And I'm loaded with flyers tonight. Have another flyer so that you can see how you can be involved if you're interested. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Direct link?
We did not meet.
Did not meet, okay. Partnership?
No report.
No report, okay. Mercer County Vote Tech?
We'll be meeting on May 20th.
Great. And special ed?
No report.
No report, okay. We have any review of communications?
I covered that in my
Okay.
report.
And now is going to be our first opportunity for public input. We are going to have this public input for any comments on the proposed 2021 budget. We have anybody who wants to make a comment? Okay. Just come on up,
Yes.
come on up, that's fine. Just please be aware of that public comments are going to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker to give everyone who wants to speak an opportunity. If you go longer, I will ask you to wrap it up. And I would request that the audience remain quiet to give respect to our speaker, and we can hear everything that you want to tell us.
I was
Please
told I'm
just-
supposed to take, I'm Katie DeMarco, and I live at 29 Allwood Drive.
Thank you.
First, I would like to thank you all. I know you're volunteers, so we appreciate everything you guys are doing. You've had a really hard year, hard decisions, so thank you very much. I came to talk about the line item in the budget of transportation, and when I saw it go up there, the increase was $366,000. I got really excited, and then I heard what you had to say. So I'm hoping, my youngest goes to LIS, and I was part of the families that got the letter that we were extending. I think it's 2-mile radius, so there's many families that didn't get a bus that previously had a bus to LIS. And you guys have done so much to keep us all safe and keep our kids safe, so I'm appealing to your sense of safety. These kids are 8 sometimes in September, 9, 10, 11, and it's a really far distance for them to walk. So I don't know where you can squeeze some money out of your transportation budget, but if you could please look at it, we would really appreciate it. Because of the lack of busing, families were left with kind of 2 options. Some people kept their kids remote and didn't send them back to hybrid school because they couldn't safely get their kids there. And then we also had the families that are driving their children because they don't think it's safe for them to walk. So an already dangerous intersection has become more crowded. There's more cars. So it's also not as safe. It was just in the Review magazine from New Jersey Department of Education that we were kind of cheering the LIS. Miss Heller had a group of kids and they got the lights on the walk, which is really great. So the community already knows it's a dangerous intersection. And again, these kids are young. In some districts, they still are in elementary school. going up to 5th grade. So it's really just about the safety of the kids. So I'm under 3 minutes. Please, thank you. Please look at it.
Thank you, Katie. Certainly, I think this is something we can look at and really evaluate. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
and I want to give a shout out to Sue Ullman at Transportation, because I am the parent that calls her and emails her and tells her, there was not a crossing guard for a long time at Dara Lane. There was in February, then there wasn't in March. And Sue went and found a different lieutenant. Lieutenant Longo was really, really instrumental. And now there's someone there every day. So thanks to Sue. I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. I really don't want anything to happen to any of these kids. It really affects the Slackwood kids, the Eldridge Park kids, and the Ben Franklin kids. So,
Thank you, Kate.
please.
Thank
Thank
Katie.
you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments on the budget?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nick Sfair, 116 Oakland Terrace. On the budget, in response to the transportation, and kind of piggyback with Ms. DeMarco, that intersection has been a dynamic, dangerous intersection for a long time. I mean, 2 people have been killed, and thank you to LIS and Ms. Heller that did petition. It's been improved, but we're far from being safe in that intersection. We have these small kids that are going to be walking now from further away. I've asked at town council, I've spoken to different officers. I would like to see a police car placed there with a stronger crossing guard. I can't evaluate all of our intersections that have crossing guards, but this has to be the most dangerous intersection out of all of our community. And I would like to see an officer car at least placed there. I know with the budgets, we can't maybe afford an officer there, but a car with lights would at least slow cars down. I mean, too many times I've seen my own kid almost run into an issue there.
At Eggert Crossing or Dara?
This is Eggert's Crossing and 206. And I know the dynamics between the state and the township, but the fact is, that area needs significant improvement. I mean, this has gone on for years. I've brought it up several times at town council. Ms. Heller's done a great job with it. But we're far from making that safe. I mean, my son will be out of there this year. I hope that the next generations of kids, it does improve. I'd like to see a no right on red off of Eggert's from 7 to 3:30. At least it would minimize the walkers coming from the north or southbound side. But a police presence, I think that merits whatever cost is incurred before we have another loss. There's 2 lives lost at an intersection in my time in this township. I just want to stress that.
Nick, can I ask Nick a question just along those lines? I'm over here, Nick, to your left. You're good. Right here.
Oh, these masks, I can't, I'm like, oh.
That's all right, that's all right.
It's
I
okay.
mean, as you're talking about this, I'm recognizing, that there's a township component to it too. I mean, can you, the police officers, their officer power, whatever they have going on per shift, like, could you give, some feedback when you went to town council? What was the response from town council?
That they were working on it,
They're working on
and I've spoken to different police officers, and everything is working on it. The dynamics is that it is a state property, and then our end of it.
Yeah.
I've actually even sat down with Mr. Nowinski at length, and we've talked about this, and we all agree that there is an issue there.
Right.
But for me, as just a simple guy, a no right on red coming off of Eggert stops kids from walking across.
Sure.
In my opinion, your strongest citizen crossing guard isn't strong enough for that intersection. I said, the guy that's there does a phenomenal job, but he's not strong enough. I know the few times that the guard was not there and a car was placed there, traffic is slower. I mean, just this week, I don't know what changed, but these tandem trucks coming down 206 from Princeton, I mean, even at 35 miles an hour, you're not stopping 30 tons with a kid that just made a simple mistake. I mean, we need to make that area safer before we lose a child. I mean, 2 crossing guards died there.
Right. I mean, I remember the days, I think it might have been after my time at LIS when one of the crossing guards was hit there. I remember, so, yeah,
Right.
so I concur with your concerns about
And they've added the no walking, but they still haven't, they've paved all of 206, and that intersection was forgotten about now because they haven't come back. And again, it's the state level.
Right, sure.
But some type of line, something, but in my opinion, a simple fix is to put a marked police guard and a police crossing guard, because that's gonna be a lot stronger than any of you sit there and watch the guard.
sure.
I mean, halfway into the intersection, and he's kind of holding.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No, I'm
maybe
with you.
because it's
Yeah.
my son, but it's all our kids.
Yeah,
And,
of
and,
course.
you know, my kid would be out of there, but that intersection is used by everybody,
Right.
regardless of
I
school
agree,
or not.
yeah. I mean, Nick, my oldest goes to LIS, so, you know, and my
Yeah.
wife takes him, and so, you know, we're familiar with it, and even historically, the challenges with that.
And in the morning especially, I mean, my son wanted to walk in the mornings, I adjust my schedule so he doesn't have to. In the afternoon, the dynamics are less, we're not rushing to work. In the morning, everybody's
Right.
got to get somewhere in a hurry,
Right.
that didn't have to be.
Right.
And there's a lot of issues, so
Okay.
thank you for
All
listening.
right. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Good evening, everyone. Jared Krimmel, 15 Melvina. Mr. Eldridge, I was curious, are we looking at any kind of solar panel placement within the parking lots outside for additional resources? Similar to what the Township Municipal Building has done?
Forgive me, would you like me to answer?
Please.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
You presented, that's why I give it to you.
No, it's quite all right. I just always defer to the chair. The answer to your question is the first thing we'll do before we erect any steel additional. The answer is eventually.
Okay,
But right now, we are out to bid this very moment to put installations on our 290 Eggers Crossing Road property, which is the former Mrs. G's warehouse, and the administration building also. And the idea, before we go and we build structures to sustain those panels, we'd like to use the structures that we already have, because it's less expensive. Then the other issue that we're considering with respect to how we address what you're suggesting is to forego any installation across parking lots, because eventually we'll have to repave them, which is exactly what Hopewell is dealing with now. They did what you're suggesting, and they're having a hard time with that. At least that's what I've been given feedback on, their school district. So our thought process on that was what we would do instead is build shade structures to try and achieve the same result that you're looking for, but it would benefit the kids who would be waiting for the buses out at the bus area at the high school.
Sure.
So that whether it was raining or it was just hot and the sun was coming down, they would get some refuge from that. In addition to that, if we do, there's another idea that we have, most certainly not over by the baseball field where the foul balls are, but instead by the track. If we can have southern-facing structures there, then what we would be able to do is provide a place for spectators and still have solar there. And then finally, the other thought was that we would do the same thing at the playgrounds, where we do have shade structures already, whether it's Slackwood or Eldridge Park. They're smaller shade structures, but if we could put larger shade structures up, we would achieve the same goal, I think, that you're trying to do. But if we do that in those areas, we would do it under the ground, but without any macadam. So it would never have to be repaved, and we would never incur the cost. So same idea, just a different spin.
cool. So the last part there that you talked about, the shade structures?
Yep.
That was my next part. So,
There you go.
good to hear. Thank
There
you.
you go. Thanks for
Thank you,
asking.
Jared.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jared.
Tom. Any other public input?
Tom, Michelle, can I ask Tom a question just around the budget piece? I mean, two things, really more for clarity of thought, Tom. One is around the 5% decrease on the health benefits. We were able to do that with this, in keeping the same carrier, or did we move to a different carrier, or how did that shake out? I mean, it's rare to see decreases of any sort, so, you know, I mean, giving credit to the district or giving it to you or whomever did that, I'm just curious as to the processes around it.
So the process that we use, it's the same carrier, answering your question directly. It is not a renewal with the carrier. It's a brand-new contract with the carrier.
Okay.
And what we did was we went out for proposals. I am certain that the carrier understood that we were very serious about changing if we needed to, which of course we always are. I
Right.
think the additional stress on Horizon this time, as well as any of the other carriers, was that the new benefits programs that are happening at the state.
Yeah.
I think that even though they're programmatically sound, financially they're untested. But I think that downward pressure from the state puts pressure on the current private carriers.
Okay.
And so we realized a better rate, and we're certainly happy for it.
Okay. Yeah, all right, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, you know, if that's a changing market for health benefits, I think that's good for everybody, but it's something that I have yet to see since, you know, we went to, you know, the benefits increases for the district and the subscribers as well, so thank you.
And just a follow-up to Mr. Kreml, I guess, is he still here, or has he moved on? Just to make sure, there's nothing wrong with going over a parking lot, and I've got no opposition to it. It's just that we're mindful that at some point, our roofs will have to be replaced. And we're going to have to take those panels off of our roofs.
Yeah.
And we understood that when we went into this. But at any time when we can avoid having to move the panels more than once, we're going to try and do that first. So I think going over parking lots is a great idea once you've exhausted the other opportunities, but certainly a viable option. So for the board's benefit and for Mr. Grimace.
Thanks, Tom. We do not have any board discussion or work session items, so we have our second opportunity for public input. Come on down.
Mike Moran, Rydell Drive. I come before you again to raise my concerns about the district's slow approach to full-time in-person learning. And I know Dr. Kaysen, in his opening remarks, he was clear, once again, he has no intention of bringing our kids back full-time this year, this school year, and I understand that. He touts the input he's received from individuals who agree with his worldview of how the district should return, without even mentioning the parents who came here last month and stated publicly the opposition to the way things were, as well as more than 200 individuals who've signed our petition to date. So there are other people who would like to see our children return to a greater in-person learning environment. Now, it appears the board doesn't seem inclined to oppose this current position that Dr. Kaysen has taken. And as our elected representatives, I know our organization, the Return to Learn Lawrence, the coalition, have tried to contact all of you and get your points of view, understand, and many of you have responded. Some have not, and we are still trying to understand, and that's frustrating. But also, what bothers me are questions that I'd like to hear answers to. And I know none of you are going to respond tonight, and I don't expect you to. As I said, as a board member, I get it. But I'd like to see that in a conversation, in an email with parents answering these questions. Here's a challenge. How about a community conversation again? We've done these in the past. Dedicate one to returning to school. Dedicated, non-other board issue meeting. Now, I'd also like the Lawrence Ledger, other media outlets to also get to the bottom, speak to Dr. Kaysen and the board members, find out some of these answers. If our district is so different from other Mercer County districts of similar sizes, what specifically makes us different? Do we have fewer teachers? Do we have smaller buildings? What is it? I would really like a detailed answer. What is the reason lunch can't be provided to our children in each school? Is it a spacing issue in the cafeteria? Is it the unavailability of spaces such as an auditorium, a gymnasium? What is it? Is it a lack of staffing? We hear these broad answers from Dr. Kaysen, but I want to hear the specifics. If extra staffing is required, what is the challenge? Why is this a challenge? Is anyone else in this district, other than Dr. Kaysen, opposed to returning to full-time learning this year? And is anyone opposed to returning this coming school year? Now, I'll reiterate, despite reassurances from our superintendent, I have low confidence that our schools are going to return to full-day in-person learning for the 21-22 school year. And I will be happy to return to this podium and eat my words. If that's not the case, you know I'll do it.
Yes, you will.
I'd like to be proven wrong, but Dr. Kaysen, in some response, a written response to some of our parents, had stated that if Lawrence needs to follow CDC and Department of Ed guidance and adhere to 3 feet of distancing, the district may not be able to accommodate students for full-time instruction. Now, this rings alarm bells for September. If it's a problem now, it's going to be a problem in September. And Governor Murphy said he expects us to be back. I said that last time, but we all know politicians say a lot of things, especially when it's an election year. And guess who's running? Phil Murphy.
We're going to have to wrap it up.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Just, I'll close.
Thank you.
My son's going to be a senior next year. My daughter's entering high school. It's a milestone. And my wife and I are not going to sit back and just trust that we're going to go back to full-time learning next year. I guarantee you I'm not going to sit quietly. I will be here at every board meeting, and I may just consider rejoining my old colleagues on this board come November.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, thank you. I just want to say two things. Number one, we have hit every milestone that we said we were going to hit. When we said we're bringing kids back, we always have. And second, in my letter, I asked and I welcomed a meeting with your group, and you have a lot of complex questions. I'm putting it out there again. If you want to sit down and meet with me and talk about these things, I am more than happy to. We can do it through Zoom. You can bring the whole group. We can bring other group. But I am more than happy to talk about the challenges that lay ahead of us. And we are planning every which way, and our goal is to open in September.
Hi, I'm Tracy McMahon, Dara Lane. I want to piggyback off of Katie and the walkers, the little kids. Kids at Ben and Franklin have to be signed out to be a walker in the afternoon. But 2.5 months later, you're going to let those little kids, only 2.5 months later, cross Princeton Pike all over Dara Lane at 206. There's no crossing guard, no cop at Dara Lane and 206. There's a little girl every day. My heart wants to just scoop her up in my van with all the other kids and let her cross by herself every day. I'm scared to death for that little girl because no one is watching for her. You can turn right on red on 206 onto Dara, but that little girl's still walking. It is scary. You can go every day and watch this girl walk. There's nobody down there, and it's scary. And she has to cross because there's no sidewalk on the other side of Dara, on that side. So she has to cross there. Those kids on the other side of Nassau 1 or 2, on the other side of Princeton Pike, you know, if they don't know to cross at Dara or at Mr. Bossu at Ben Franklin, they're just crossing in the middle of Princeton Pike all over. This year's a little different. A lot of parents are home, laid off or whatever, so they can help pick up. But hopefully next year, at a full-time, full day, those parents are back to work. How are those kids going to get home? Walking. That's scary. They're little. Some of these kids have July, August birthdays. They're only like 9 years old, walking 2 miles. It's a little scary. So maybe consider that bus route for, you know, that Ben Franklin area or the other ones. I don't know that. Not familiar with that situation. But even just for LIS, maybe the high school and those kids can walk that distance. They're a little smarter, a little wiser. They're not new to cell phones and walking across. Because I see those little kids walking to LIS on their phones. So maybe just consider those kids at LIS, even just LIS. Because Ben Franklin and the other kids, those parents have to be home for them. You know, if you're an elementary student, your parents are home. You're not getting dropped off to nobody at that age, right? But LIS and 4th, 5th, and 6th, there's a lot of parents that aren't home. So those, you know, anything to help those kids from that Princeton Pike area all the way up. And there's no sidewalks by Nick's house, that area across from Eggert's Crossing.
Right.
So those kids in the snow are walking in the street, in the middle of the road on snow days, because there's no sidewalks. So maybe the township needs to put sidewalks, make it safer for those kids if you're gonna make them walk, especially little kids. Remember, they're only 4th graders. They're little. Just be considerate of those kids. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Ms. Bose, may I respond?
Yes,
I have a
please.
question. Ms. McMahon, I'm going to be there tomorrow, and so Shaya's going to get your phone number or give you mine, either way. I want to make sure that we direct whatever child tries to cross at Dara Lane, because there is no crossing that we are, first of all, I just want to... At Dara Lane and 206, there's no crossing. That's
She's
what I'm
by
going to
herself.
stop, and that's what I'm going to go out there and make sure that doesn't happen. Well, there's different ways to get to LIS from there. You don't have to go that direction. You can come out on Wayside if you go through the neighborhood, and we're going to make sure she knows that, and her parents too. But first, we're going to make sure that she doesn't cross at Dara Lane at 206.
Mr. Albert, I'm sorry, but going through Wayside, Oakland Terrace, Birchwood Knoll, Wayside, Wynwood, they're undeveloped. You do not have sidewalks.
I understand what you said. I took what you said, and I took your meaning. At this very moment, though, I want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
No, I'm saying, but you gave her an alternate route that she's still walking in the middle of the road. There's people attention on is those side streets. It's an undeveloped neighborhood, does not have sidewalks. The alternate route is no safer than the route that she was
And
going.
then you're here tomorrow on a main road, so people can see if something happens to it. So stop it by yourself,
Right.
only by yourself.
So I'm going to go, if after this I can call you and find out what time that is, I just can't have any, I heard what you said, Mrs. Farrow, okay? I'm not,
Every day, you talk about all the kids driving, I just want to pick her up, I don't know her, so.
yeah, we'll make sure that we address that. If you can give Ashaya your phone number and I can call you so that I can pursue that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jackie Ivy, Baltimore Avenue. This is my very first board meeting because I'm supposed to be in Bible study, but I'm here.
Welcome.
The reason for my presence is to speak on behalf of the parents who have children who are doing very well virtually, remotely, and who would like to stay remote in the fall. I know the governor has already put out a statement that they would like to see 100% in person. However, there are parents whose children would prefer to stay virtual. This is the first time this has ever been an option, and for some of these students, it is really beneficial to them. Academically, they're thriving. Socially, they're staying in contact with their peers. I have an entering senior next year and entering freshman. We've been in the district since they were both in pre-K. My entering senior said, if it wasn't my senior year, I would stay virtual. But I'm thinking about coming in just because it's my senior year. But both of my children are thriving. And I know there are other parents as well whose kids are doing very well. They don't miss the distractions in the classroom. And also, it's beneficial for the kids who have to come to school because of social distancing, because of transportation. You don't have to worry about 100% who were getting transportation prior to the pandemic returning to the classroom. So if at all possible, there is an opportunity to continue hybrid in the fall. I'm here to, on behalf of those parents whose children would prefer to stay virtual. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for that, and it's absolutely something that we continue to discuss and look at. You know, the governor did come out with a strong stance. He quickly changed that the very next day. My guess is there was quite a bit of parents, and we haven't surveyed people because my feeling is if I ask people now, that's going to change in June, it's going to change in July, it's going to change in August, of who really would do that. And asking somebody to commit to that now for September, I don't think that's fair to do to families. But I do think we, you know, most likely are going to have some type of option if it's allowed by the Department of Education to do that for our kids.
Right.
We've learned a lot, and again, I think some kids have thrived, and having that option, I think, is when I talk about coming out of this better, that's one component that I personally feel could make school districts better.
Yes, and I know, again, it depends on what happens in September.
Yep.
Can't make that decision tonight. But if at all possible, there is an option for students to stay virtual, then that's what we would, my family would be staying, well, one might be in school because she's a senior, but the other would like to stay virtual.
Certainly.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to commend you guys for what you're doing. This is not easy. And you do have parents who need both, right? And so I commend you for the work that you have been doing during this pandemic. I know of some of the teachers here in Lawrence who are also concerned about their safety, their own safety, their family's safety. And so we have to always, as board members, you have to take into consideration all of this. So thank you so much for the work you've been doing.
Thank you.
Good evening, Lisa Kessler from the Lease Court. I had all sorts of things that I was geared up to say because after our last meeting, it was very unsure of, you know, what ideas board has for making things work rather than reasons why they can't work. And I heard a lot of great ideas tonight, that it sounds like there are a lot of initiatives and actions that are being taken to work towards a lot of things that we've been expressing concern over the past year. So that said, I really want to continue to advocate and give voice to I think still, I'm surprised that a full 80% said that it was positive experience of virtual learning back on that survey. But still, that 20%, whatever percent that is really any child who's really struggling in this hybrid virtual learning environment. We need to continue to push it's a reason why those things that you're doing are important. So thank you, and I want to underscore that need for those initiatives. And let's see. Also, I want Miss Ivy, I think it was. Yeah.
She just left.
Oh, okay. I think it is important that we hear, that perspective of, why we would want to continue that remote option. And I think, obviously, risk, and I think I might have missed some of the other reasons she said, but when I think of what it's like to go back in, from what I hear of what it's like to go back into the school, there's a lot of things that are not great about it. And that's why we need to keep pushing to make that in-school experience a positive one, so that the kids can learn. And I love that you said that, Ms. Grogert, that we need to make sure that it's a welcoming environment first, so that they can be ready, and that they're ready to take the benefits of what we have to offer as our schools. And just also continuing to be creative and more. I'm going to push you guys for more ideas. I mean, the seminar that is being offered looks great for
I'm going to have
parents.
to cut you off.
And I want to make
Sorry.
sure that there are some individual, not individual, but school-wide activities for the kids themselves, so they can really be able to talk and connect with their peers. One last thing, I do want to strongly urge the district to commit to a plan for how we can get our children to return to school for a full 5 days in September. That the school district will be committed to making that happen, and more importantly, to have the mindset of how we can address our parents, community, teachers' concerns in a way that is open-minded to finding ways to make it work, not excuses for why we can't do it. So I hope that I really want that to happen, to have a solid, concrete plan for making it happen before September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, I'll let Ross answer that, but I think everybody on this board, and every single person on this board is aligned with that. I have 2 children in the school. My 2 kids are struggling just like everybody else's kids. Every day, I think about what are the obstacles that we need to get over to get back to school. So I don't know if Ross wants to add anything else, but we are committed to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you have my commitment that that is our goal, and we're going to hit that goal in September.
Any other public comments?
Tracy Crummel, Melvina Drive. So first I want to start out by saying I know that this board and the superintendent has a good heart and has, I think, our students at the top of mind. But I have to say I've been, in my practice of 23 years of being a nurse practitioner, I've seen my experiences with disseminating data as it relates to clinical trials and patient care. I've watched closely the COVID-19 data and lived through all these infectious diseases, SARS, H1N1, swine flu, and Ebola. And unfortunately, every year, patients die of the flu. I want to acknowledge there's nothing like this novel, aggressive, progressive virus with sequelae we have never seen. Knowing these truths, this board and superintendent, like everyone else, has to pivot, and pivot quickly, using science and expertise of individuals like the CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, and other agencies to make vital decisions for our children. However, I don't really think that this board has acted as swiftly as I would have liked to have seen. I think there perhaps has been a very conservative approach as well as fear. I do recognize we are back in school now, and it has been better, but it has been to a great expense to our mental capacity at home with our kids. And I do now see that you are addressing these issues, which I'm really happy to see, but I have to say I think it's a bit late. I think in my practice, I need to be proactive, not reactive. And I think that this board and superintendent really needs to consider future approaches as things come up. I recently was at a presentation with Dr. Fauci himself, which he stipulated this is a global pandemic and we should not expect the eradication for several years due to the ex-US ability to deliver vital immunizations. In your letter to your group, Dr. Kaysen, you said you're concerned about the 3 feet guidelines and being able to provide that to our students in September, and that really concerns me. I would really like to consider something. Whenever I've had a difficult situation like we had with an equity analysis and you've used a consultant to solve a problem, which I think is a great idea, I could offer this as another option. If you're struggling to figure this out, perhaps we need to reach out. And I really think it's important that you report back into the parents of Lawrence Township with this report. I do look forward to meeting with you, Dr. Kaysen, and sharing my concerns further. I do want to wrap up at my utter disappointment that we're not in school full-time right now, despite the lowest cases per day, hospitalizations, and deaths since April of 2020. Vaccines widely being available to 44% of the population of New Jersey receiving at least 1 vaccination. New Jersey state restrictions easing with business capabilities, increasing social and residential gathering limits. So again, I really would like to see this board really take my advice strongly because again, as a provider, I've had to deal with this. I've also been an administrator of a healthcare facility for many years. And sometimes a consultant is a way to pull it together when you're struggling with so many things. I do realize that you are thinking of all these things like tents and structures, but maybe we could have been thinking about that 6 months ago or 9 months ago. And these are all great ideas, but again, we do have concern, Dr. Kaysen, that we're not going to go back in September. And that's what our concerns are at this point.
Okay.
Thank
you very much, Tracy.
Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you for being a gentleman. Good evening. My name is Amy Davis, and I live on Pine Knoll Drive. At the last school board meeting, our superintendent stated there are 3 reasons why we can't fully reopen our schools. Number 1, providing lunch. Why aren't we using other spaces besides the cafeteria, such as the auditorium, classrooms, tents like other districts? Tom, I appreciate it. It's been over a year, and tonight is the first time I've ever heard anyone from this administration or school board who's provided their response about tents. Why did it take so long? Please explain what current lunch staffing issues you have. They can't, why can't you find a solution, again, as other districts have? Number 2, you stated, quote, in most cases, changing to a full-day experience would completely disrupt and make significant changes for our remote cohort. This statement is very vague, and you have not provided any clear explanation to illustrate how keeping our students in school 7 hours instead of 4 hours would impact remote students. Number 3, staffing. You stated, quote, the early dismissal schedule eliminates the need for some staff to take a leave, which keeps our teachers with their kids. I don't understand this statement. If teachers are currently working 7 hours a day, why would they have to take a leave? If those 7 hours are in person as opposed to remote, please explain. Is this an issue that the union has presented to the administration that has not been shared with us? If so, please elaborate. And if it is, I'm sure other districts have faced similar challenges, yet they have managed to overcome them and are fully back in school and serving lunch. Again, why not Lawrence? The only real difference I can see between those districts and us is you. Stop focusing on just the problems and find real solutions. Other districts that have fully reopened have done so because they wanted to do so. Of course they face similar challenges and hurdles that they had to overcome. Yet they believe the benefits of in-person schooling far outweigh the minimal health risk. And the science, data, and studies prove that they're right. Many of our students are suffering. You've heard from them yourself. Even breaking down in tears, describing to you what the last year has been like for them.
Okay,
and
it's been
you
3
still,
minutes, Amy.
I'll wrap up.
Thank you.
And you still adamantly refuse to budge. Parents have left the district to attend private schools, and many more plan to do so in September because they have lost all confidence in the administration to effectively lead, fully reopen, and provide a quality education for their children. I, too, remain unconvinced that you will allow our students to fully reopen, our schools to fully reopen in September. Please convince me otherwise. Provide a detailed plan. Offer clear explanations of what
Okay,
your
Amy,
current
it's
issues
time.
are, and improve your overall communications to the families you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make one clarification to your statement. It is not just Ross, it is the full board. We do stand behind this decision together. Understood. Okay.
And I just want to make two comments to that, Amy, and thank you for sharing. Number one, there's a reason why there are a lot more districts that are not at full day than there are a full day. And number two, all of your questions, as I put in the letter that I wrote to you on the 21st, I'm more than happy to sit down and have a discussion and a dialogue and fully explain why. I put that invitation out. I don't know why, if you really want to meet, you waited to come to a board meeting instead of setting up a meeting with me. That was 2 months ago.
God bless them for what they put up with. So I have tried to do the right thing and gone through the right channels, and you know that.
I disagree.
Just,
Yes, Tom?
I'm not sure what was meant by when I mentioned tents, and I may have not been articulate, and that perhaps is my fault. What I said was, we won't entertain tents. We will not. Yeah, so, and the rationale for not entertaining them is to come up with a better solution, to find space inside. So, I mean, it wasn't something that I just thought of. It was something that I was not going to recommend to this board, because I thought, and I believe that today to this board, just so you're aware, that we can find other ways without doing that. And it wasn't that we just started thinking of those things. And that's not, I don't believe what you said, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And I mean, when I say you, Amy. Yeah.
Even this week, I've asked it again to several school board members, and not a single person that I emailed can answer that question, whether or not you can. So I'm glad I came tonight and you can tell me what.
Wait, if we're talking about tents, we're talking about tents for long-term, Amy? Is that what you're asking? Because tents are clearly not a long-term fix to any of these solutions. I mean, you know, we can play this game, we're talking about next year. October is going to come around, and I'm not putting kids out in tents. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and so, just so we talk about John.
Yeah, I do know that. I do know that. And I know all the layers that go, that go into tents. And if you want to see a tent, drive by my high school, and it's not for kids to eat in. It's for our prom. It's 300 feet long, and I recognize all the circumstances with townships and everything else that goes into that. And that's not to take anything away from our commitment to students. but my position is with regards to the safety and the health of every student, all 4,400 of them who attend these schools. And as a parent, I want nothing more than to have my kids in school all day, every day, like everybody else, not everybody else, but like many, many people do. But as a board member, my responsibility to every student's families is to keep fundamentally their kids safe in our schools when they attend school. It's in the statute, in loco parentis. So when they come to me, and if one kid gets COVID because I let them eat lunch, or I made a mistake as a leader, then I have to own that when I sit down with that parent and sit across the table and explain why. And I'm not prepared to do that as a board member or a principal. So that's my piece on that, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other public input?
The gentleman.
Hi, Bill Denver, Keefe Road. I've lived in Lawrence for 34 years. I'm a graduate of the high school in '98. I came here primarily to speak about and agree with people about getting back to learning in school full-time. I have 2 young children. Neither of them are in the school district. One would have started kindergarten in the fall, but as they mentioned, I'm going to send him to private school. He is too smart to sit in front of a tablet and not learn with the teacher and the help and guidance that I think he won't get. I am encouraged that the board is, and Mr. Cason, Dr. Cason, sorry, is working on a solution, but I have no confidence that the school will be open in the fall. Health and safety is the utmost importance, I understand that, but I feel that there is a way, there's got to be a way to have these kids in school. That being said, it's been a very hard decision to not send my kid to school. I came and live in Lawrence because I love this township. I believe in the school system. I'm a product of that school system. And it hurts that I can't send my kid to school next year. It really does. Because I haven't heard a good plan, I haven't heard a full plan, and I know it's early. Having said that, there was another discussion that was going on with safety and kids that I wanted to speak on real quick. The crossing guards issue and the 206, since it's a state route, you know, the state is very responsive when you contact them with issues with the state route. I work for an engineering firm that does a lot of work with the state, and they're pretty much required to respond back to issues. And also there is, I don't know if it's been explored, but there's a Safe Routes to Schools program as well. It might have been explored, I don't know. But I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim Lehrfeld, Glen Avenue. I have 2 children in the district, middle school, high school, and what I wrote isn't what I'm going to say. So I think I stand here because I'm confused, and I think I'm confused due to a mush of communication of sorts. So part of my brain hears, we're coming back, we're coming back, we're coming back, and I too, it's like the little boy who cried wolf. I don't believe it. No, I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I love all of you people, and I trust you people, but I don't feel it. And I don't feel it because of the mix of communication I get. So, you know, you mentioned, and I fully agree, there are people that can't come to school for their safety possibly in the fall. So remote could be a possibility for them, hopefully, maybe. But with that, I think of my teacher friends who say to me, oh my gosh, how do I teach in person and how do I teach kids on the computer simultaneously? Are we gonna do that again next year? Because I see poor teachers rolling their eyes probably in my brain, and I think, how are they gonna do that? It's not efficient, it doesn't work. We see that it doesn't work. So hopefully, there's a plan in progress. But I don't know that, and the rest of the community doesn't know that, because I feel like there's things that are being done, and you shared some things today, which was great, but there are other things that are being done. If you share them with us, we won't feel so scared and so uneasy that what you just blanketly say is it's going to be better, that it's going to be better. I don't see the backup to it's going to be better. And for communication, for example, I heard through the rumor mill through a student who heard from a teacher who down the road heard from so-and-so and so-and-so about the new block scheduling for the middle school and the high school for next year. I'm like, we're going to block scheduling? And I asked a guidance counselor because my son would not do well with block scheduling, and it was confirmed to me that they are going to block scheduling. But again, this wasn't how I should find these things out, and it's frustrating that I find things out this way. So, which might lead to why I don't trust the blanket statement of it's all going to be okay in September. So, I guess my suggestion might be ways to share with us a little better so that we feel a little more confident and a little more at ease. And I guess that's all I ask for. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. And the only thing I want to just make a quick comment, and there has been absolutely no decision on what the schedule is going to look like for high school next year. We have a committee that's sitting and talking. I believe there's 18 folks on it from all departments about the possibility of a block schedule. However, we have not even begun to bring that to the whole staff or make a final decision on that.
Thank you for that information. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other public comments?
Nick Sfair, Oakland Terrace. Trying to collect my thoughts. Dr. Kaysen, you stated in the beginning that the survey that you referenced, that 80% of the parents that were surveyed were content with the remote learning.
85% of the
85%.
hybrid were either satisfied or very satisfied with the hybrid program.
And could you tell me when the survey was done? I can't exactly remember. I mean, was it month-wise? What were we looking at?
I'd have to get that for you. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to give you wrong information.
Okay, so realistically, it was a snapshot in time when the pandemic was maybe not at its height. It might have been coming down. Realistically, I think if you were to survey those same parents right now, given the vaccine, given the state of New Jersey opening up, state of Pennsylvania opening up, state of New York opening up, I think those numbers may be a little bit different. I mean, statistics, we can spin numbers any way we want. So yes, your statement was correct. That may have been a snapshot in time when even I may have agreed that this is good. All right, so you mentioned, I think it was Princeton, East Windsor, they're not all full-time, but again, it seems that our district is reactive, not proactive, because Princeton has had children in person since October, okay? I can tell you from my experience with my son, who's only been in for the last few weeks, a lot of kids only been in since April 19th, my kid got a week ahead of that. The comments and the development and the level of confidence that he's gotten in these last few weeks, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it's been, have been dramatic. The team that he's been placed with, those 3 teachers, I've always had the utmost respect and the talent that he was placed with. These teachers are phenomenal. And what I've seen in these last 6 weeks, what have I lost since October if we were reactive and went and had our kids in since October? How much more could my kid, our students, have gained? We've only spun the corner 6 weeks ago. I mean, here, look at yourselves up here as reactive. It took a comment from last week to say how close you were to look outside the box to space the tables out. Let's get outside the box, start thinking outside the box. It seems we're not going to turn the corner this year. These kids are not going to get back. Our children are going to suffer, all right? I don't know how we make this up. You expended the extra curriculums that are coming with these summers. These kids are going to be lost for a lifetime. Any change we can do to get these kids a little bit more in learning. I mean, again, you guys are doing the best you can. I understand. I would never want to be where you guys are. But I'm asking you guys to think about this. I mean, we could have been in school in person since October.
Okay, time's up. Thank you. I'm
But,
sorry.
all right, so you understand.
Of course.
Believe me, I know it's not easy.
We
but
hear you. We
I know
we do
you hear you, but you're not listening to us.
Well,
3 minutes yet, let them talk.
it is 3 minutes.
It's fine, it's fine, but just,
Was there anything else you wanted to say?
no, I really, I thank you guys for everything you do, Dr.
Talk to
Kaysen.
the Apple
You know, your
product.
job's not easy. It's easier to sit back here and judge, but like I said, again, we're being reactive, not proactive, and it's hurting our kids. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comments? Okay. We'll go to our committee reports. Personnel.
Okay, personnel did not meet, but as you can see on the agenda, we have reappointments for staff, summer employment, one motion for termination of an employee for failure to show up for work, resignation due to relocation to a different state. Two staff members were new members, which are on the agenda tonight. We're happy to have them join our team. And we're interviewing for a few open positions and 2 guidance positions and a G&T position. And with that information, I'd like to move P1 through P31.
Second.
Joyce.
Thank you. Oh. Okay, and Tom? Yes.
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 Mrs. Grover,
Yes.
Ms. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. CIAPD?
Yes, thank you, Michelle. CIAPD we just met yesterday, and I'm going to go through my report. It's a bit unpolished, given the timeliness of it, but we'll do the best we can with my notes here. But CIAPD, we did meet yesterday, May 4th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., attending Michelle Bowes, Patricia Hendricks-Farmer, Michelle King, Andrew Zuckerman, Ross Kaysen, and myself. Under curriculum, 4 textbooks were vetted and approved by the committee, 1 for statistics and 1 for algebra and trig, human genetics, as well as physics at the high school level. These books should be ready to go for the 21-22 school year. As far as instruction goes, a social justice survey are going to the K-6 staff that have been implementing the curriculum this year to evaluate where we are in order to help support our direction moving forward towards next year. This survey will be implemented this month, during the month of May. Under assessment, if we're all paying attention, maybe a good thing perhaps if you're a student, we did not have state testing in the spring. And as enjoyable as that may be if you were a student, the downside of that is that we will have it in the fall and then again in the spring. So what's going to happen is there will be 2 assessments for the 21-22 school year from the New Jersey Department of Education, 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring. It's a mid-September to end of October window for fall testing, and then the spring assessment will take place later in the spring. We don't have a formal decision on the Department of Education as far as the window for that time. So parents and students and teachers and everybody else can look for 2 assessments for next year, 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring, given the circumstances around not having it this spring as per the DOE. Under professional development, crisis intervention training to support students through means of de-escalation techniques. Up to 100 staff members, K-12 would be able to be trained, and training would be implemented prior to the September of 2021. In terms of grants, overview of grant and federal timelines, state funding is going to arrive in July, and there will be an opportunity to overlap last year's funds with this upcoming year's funds, which will give the district greater spending power in terms of how they utilize the grants themselves. So as we head towards summer, there should be more coming on this topic, particularly from Andrew Zuckerman's office, the Office of Instruction. We also reviewed a number of policies, many of which were connected to, if you go back this far, the No Child Left Behind Act. So given that we are now with the Every Student Succeed Act, there is a legal implications around NCLB. So policy 2415, 2415-01, 02, 03, 05, 2.0. We revamped all of them, and we're in a better position now in terms of how our policies support learning and achievement as it is particular to the federal expectations with Every Student Succeeds Act as well. And, those are my notes on our committee meeting from yesterday for CIAPD. So if there are no questions, there are 4 items on the agenda under instructional services. So I'd like to make a motion to approve items IS1 through IS4.
Second?
So moved.
Tom?
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Dauber?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Grover?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee did not meet. I've just been checking Tom's addition on the budget and find everything to be in order. I'd like to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week to the heroes that don't wear capes, and happy Nurses Day tomorrow to our school nurses.
Bravo.
On our agenda, we've got some policies and some transportation agreements, and I'd like the board to approve SBM 1 through 12.
Second.
Tom?
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Dauber?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And now we'll have our final opportunity for any other public comment. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to new business.
Okay, new business. I will quickly take a look at, we have staff members who'll be moving back home and other staff members that are moving back to New Jersey as a result of the pandemic, citing the distance from family members as the reason. Evidently, this is quite a common thing that's going to be happening because of the pandemic. We approved some substitutes, and we have one retirement. I'm just going to quick jump in there. Connie Stanger, she is a Lawrence High graduate. Her kids have graduated there. Her sister graduated from Lawrence High. She's an outstanding lady. And when you hear the word can do, you think of Connie Stanger. And we just wanted her to know that we really appreciate the year she's given to us and that she will be missed. She's staying with us till August. So if you have a chance to stop by, give her some love.
Yeah,
Yes.
Joanne, can I add to that?
Yes,
Connie tried to
please do.
sneak that one in on us on new business. So
Yes, she
it wasn't part of
did.
the earlier agenda, but, having the chance to work with Connie for 5 years, she is a foundational piece of everything that happens in this high school and has been for 27 years. The crazy thing is, as a Lawrence High product, I think my father, when he was alive and he taught here, I think he taught Connie, was one of his students, way back in, we'll say like the mid-90s.
gentle.
Mid-90s,
Be
right?
gentle.
Mid-90s, is that what it was?
I was there.
But, much love to Connie. I can't thank her enough for all of her help, and on behalf of everybody in this school community, Connie is she's the best, so.
She is.
Wish her well.
And with those comments, I'd like to move NB 1 through 7.
So moved. Or second.
Okay, Tom, with a motion and a second?
Ms. Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Dauber?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Grover?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And that concludes our board meeting. Oh. Yeah. Sorry. Resignation. And with that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And I have the flyers if anybody wants to look at any of these before you go tonight.